What's up, everybody? It's Connor Moriarty, your host. The Dedication Period podcast is back. Thanks to everyone for checking out episode one, which is actually episode 115. Since we've been back, it's episode one, though. The UFC zone, Darian Weeks, was kind enough to join in, sit down with me, talk about his career so far, what's to be expected, and all the different nuances that come with being a UFC fighter. It was a great interview. Check that out. It's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Um, but now I'm going to introduce NFL Table Talk back to everyone. But really, um, I don't like that name. NFL Table Talk just comes off the tongue. It comes off the tongue nice, but really, to be honest, um, sounds a little third grade, if you know what I mean. But I can't really come up with anything clever that hasn't been taken. But I mean, I want this show to be all business down to brass tacks. So why not just call it NFL Review Preview? Now, it's not just NFL Review Preview. Obviously, we got weeks throughout the NFL season, week 1 through 18, and we got the playoffs. But essentially, anytime you watch this podcast, which comes out twice a week, every Monday, Thursday, this for the foreseeable future during NFL season, every Monday will be an NFL review podcast. We'll be reviewing the previous weekend of events. Then Thursday, we will be previewing the upcoming week, the Thursday night game, all the games on Sunday, Monday night, even too. So basically, the podcast will be transitioning into an NFL review preview show. And that's my favorite content. NFL runs the world. And I'm going to bring it to you how I know. And that's hard, aggressive, legit. You know what I'm saying? But anyhow, up until the NFL season starts, what I wanted to do was completely just cover all angles of the NFL. And today, what I will be doing is kind of a synopsis on the NFL offseason. So, I mean, I don't want to start naming off things, but I think when I say NFL offseason 2022, I think a bunch of different things pop in everybody's mind. And I'm going to kind of just touch base on a little bit of that, introduce the NFL show back to the people that have loved it. But yeah, and if you're like interested, like, oh, what's this podcast going to look like week 1 to 18 or whatever? 2 years ago, if you go back on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can see all my episodes. NFL Table Talk was going, and basically we created a nice fluid system that I want to get back to and covering everything. So just I'm throwing a lot of info out there. I ain't got no notes. I'm just spilling it off from the top of my brain. Just look out for it. NFL fantasy football advice, come here. Game pick advice. If you're about to make a bet in Vegas, if you're about to make a bet on a sports book, Bovada, betonline.ag, any of those, come to me. I'll help you out. We're also going to do a dedication period podcast, NFL Survival League. If you're not familiar with that, every single week you make one pick. You only get to pick one team a week. And once you use that one team, you're done. No more others. So it's basically just seeing who can survive the longest throughout the season. I did it for the first time ever last year. And I think the winner was announced like week 12. I made it like week 8. So it's real fun. But we can follow that on the podcast. I'm also going to do a weekly pick 'em for the podcast listeners that I'll cover on the podcast as well. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts. One man here, but I'm going to have a lot of guys come in and help me out. Your boy Dalton Martin, he'll be on the pod. I think we're going to get the homie Josh Hesseltine. They've both been on NFL Table Talk several times. And other guys, my boy Frank Moore, not graphic, I'm about to say graphic designer, copywriter for Dedication Period. He comes up with all the ads. that we ain't really got a lot of right now. But shout out Frank. But yeah, so basically, we're gonna keep this consistency of 2 days a week going until the season starts. I got a schedule laid out. Today, this podcast obviously is gonna be talking about the NFL offseason. Then next Monday, huge podcast. We're gonna start it off right. AFC West, NFC West preview. We're gonna preview the AFC West for the upcoming season and the NFC West. So I'm talking every single team. Your boy Simo, he's a Chiefs fan, so I'm gonna be focusing on that. Bringing in D-Mart, lone Los Angeles Rams fan in the world, possibly, but he'll be on. He'll help me break down both divisions, AFC and NFC West. Then next Thursday, we're gonna be doing AFC, NFC East. Then following up, South, North, and then after that. Sorry, I'm throwing a lot of info at you. We're going to be doing an NFL fantasy breakdown. We're going to do a mock draft, tell you who we're high on, who we're not high on. We're also going to do an accolades podcast where basically we pick our MVP, coach of the year, special teams player of the year. No, but all those type of things, pick our Super Bowl winner, all of that. And then, yeah, about that time, we're NFL ready. You know what I mean? I'm going to have everyone that listens to this podcast NFL ready. That's all I know. That's all I do. Okay? Anyways, let's just, dive right in. So before we do the 2022 offseason, I think it's best to give a synopsis of the 2021 end of season. I was very bitter as a Chiefs fan at the end of the season. It was very good, and it was very refreshing, though, to see Matt Stafford win the Super Bowl. Shout out Dalton. Shout out all Rams fans, the very few of you that there are. I have nothing but, tremendous respect for Matt Stafford for his long career in Detroit. But, I mean, it just goes to show you the last 2 NFL seasons, the champion at the end spent that money. They're on that New York Yankees diet, if you know what I mean. But basically, in 2020, would be 2020. Yes, sorry, 2020, we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win. They went out, spent a ton of money, obviously got Tom Brady, paid off. I'm not hating on the philosophy. I'm just saying that was the philosophy, the New York Yankee method. Take it to last year, then you got the Rams who added, you name it. Well, Matt Stafford, which was the smartest move they could have made, but Von Miller. I know I'm missing somebody. Odell Beckham Jr. So you see what I mean, that New York Yankee method. Now, there's other teams that have probably tried to emulate that, and I'll mention some of those in today's pod. But as far as the Chiefs are concerned, that loss to the Bengals, coming off the greatest game I've ever watched as a fan against the Buffalo Bills. That game went back and forth with Josh Allen. And I want to touch on something here. Buffalo Bills fans, I hope some of you listening here. Why are you all so horrible online, especially Twitter? I have gotten so many arguments this offseason with Buffalo Bills fans of all people about the dumbest things. Like, oh, yeah, well, if Josh Allen would have had the ball last, I think we know who wins the game. It's like, well, guess what? That's not how the freaking game works. I just don't understand how it seemed like everywhere online, everyone only had something good to say, positive to say about Josh Allen. Josh Allen came out from that game better than he could have if he won it seems. Patrick Mahomes won the game, answered back every single time, had the weaker defense. Supporting cast, I would say, is just as strong. When you look at the Bills, when they got Dawson Knox, Stefan Diggs, what am I saying? I got to get back into this. Anyways, Gabe Davis went for 4 touchdowns, 200 yards. They had Emmanuel Sanders last year. And then Josh Allen is a weapon himself running the ball. So, they had just as many weapons as the Chiefs did as well. So, and then you go into this year, all these different posts have came out, ranking the top 10 rosters. Who's number one on all of them? Buffalo. So Josh Allen had it all around him. Yeah, he went into hostile territory with playing in Kansas City, but the fact that Mahomes was making magical plays that whole game, basically running for his life, making something out of nothing, answering back every single time. There was 2 different times in that fourth quarter, both happened to be Gabe Davis touchdowns, where I'm like, oh my God, we're toast. Mahomes came back every single time. And then in overtime, when everybody acts like that, they're going to score. You know how much fucking pressure there is to score there? Especially when you know Josh Allen's coming out and about to score on you, probably, because your Chiefs defense ain't stopping nobody. It's rough. And then also look at the next week. We play against the Bengals in overtime, and we turn the ball over on I think Mahomes throws the pick. So, I mean, and I'm pretty sure the Bills had a better defense than the Bengals last year. So if you see where I'm at, everybody wants to blame Josh Allen for not getting the ball. Well, I mean, Joe Burrow got the ball the very next week. What's going on? So basically, kind of coming back to that, I've had so many arguments with Bills fans, just basically saying that Josh Allen's better than Patrick Mahomes. How we're lucky, all these different, it's all nonsense. I've got to do a better job of not getting so worked up over nonsense. But I just wanted to kind of say that, basically kind of summing up last year. I mean, congrats to the Rams. Congrats to that Yankee method. See if it pays off again this year for another team. And I'm really bitter about the Chiefs' loss. So basically, I was going into the offseason kind of in an odd headspace. I didn't know what to think, to be honest. I didn't want to watch the Super Bowl, but I had to. I had to support my boy D-Mart. Had to root against the Bengals. I'm not that guy. Like, a lot of people like, oh, you beat my team. Guess what? I'm going to root for you, man. You earn my respect. I'm not that guy. You beat my team. Fuck you. Get out of here. I don't want to see you again. I don't want to check Twitter. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to see Joey B's outfit for the day ever again. Okay? So basically that's where I'm at. And yeah, so let's pile on into the 2022 offseason. Now, so a lot of money got spent this offseason, all right? A lot of teams made a lot of moves because, like I said, I'm going to keep referring to it as the Yankee method. Spend that money, get that return. Yankees haven't had the greatest return, though, but you get the gist. Spend the money. And, I mean, like, let's just start off. The Buffalo Bills, who I've already talked about on this podcast, signing 33-year-old Von Miller to a $120 million contract. People, and when that contract came out, everybody's like, what the hell? Why are they giving him that much money? And then all these people are like, oh, well, if you really look at the contract, if you understand contracts, it's really set up like, what? Why is it so weird, man? Just I see the number. It's 120 million for a 33-year-old dude. I don't like it. I think Von Miller has done a great job of winning. Where'd he go? He went to the Rams last year and won a ring. Now he's like, oh, I think the Bills got it this year. Not so fast. But obviously, Bills sized up over there. Then also the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers. J.C. Jackson, 5-year, $82 million. That's at corner. Who's in the division? Russell Wilson. Derek Carr with amazing weapons. Patrick Mahomes. Good acquisition there. I'll give it to him. I've always been a fan of J.C. Jackson. And then Khalil Mack. That one, when I seen it, initially I was very, very worried and upset. But I slowly came out of that. And, you know, he's been banged up a lot. He's one of the most talented defensive linemen out there, that's for sure, edge rushers. But I'm not going to get worked up about that. The Chargers are always the hypiest of all hype going into every single season. Until I see them come out and show that dominance, show that they're not going to lose to a mid-level to lower team, that's the Chiefs division. But very, very intrigued by what the Chargers are doing. That defense looks stout. Derwin James, Bosa. I mean, they're deep. Their offense, obviously, Justin Herbert's a great quarterback. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. I mean, they got a hell of a team, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Then the Browns. So there's a lot of ways to look at this one. First off, the smallest, Amari Cooper is with the Browns now. Dallas gets rid of him. And you know what? I think a lot of people are giving up on Amari Cooper, especially when you look at fantasy mock drafts and things. I'm a huge Amari Cooper guy. I think that he's a great receiver. I'd be happy to draft him in any league going into this fantasy season. I think he's got what it takes, and especially when Deshaun Watson comes, Deshaun's going to feed that man the ball. It's going to, I mean, this is probably, elementary level comparison, but I think it's going to be a lot like when we seen Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. I think Hopkins and Cooper aren't far off in what they do good. That's that short to intermediate route success, and I'm talking success. They do it well. So I really like the acquisition, but as I've already mentioned, Deshaun Watson is now a Cleveland Brown. I'm not going to get into the massage parlor aspect of all this just because, what am I going to say that no one else has? I'm going to say that definitely the whole story is very weird, and I definitely think he's guilty of at least being a gigantic pervert. But I'm not hating on another man, especially when I don't know all the details. And yeah, that's enough on that. But would you take Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield? I'm 6 games. I don't even care about it. Baker Mayfield, I feel like, has shown what he will do. He can help you win some games, but he's not going to help you win the game. I keep thinking about last year's game against the Packers, I'm pretty sure, where he threw 4 interceptions, and he could have had 2 or 3 more. I know he was playing hurt and all that, but I just don't think that that's the sign of a winner right there. At Texas Tech, he showed flashes, and then when he got to Oklahoma, transferred there, he had so much talent around him. Now he's in the NFL. Now he's on Carolina Panthers, but he had so much talent around him at Cleveland. Great offensive line, great running backs, 2 great running backs. Amari Cooper, Jarvis Landry, 2 tight ends, Austin Hooper, David Njoku. He had so much around him, but he's playing against guys that are just as highly leveled as those guys. So really, when I look at it, I just don't know if Baker has enough of the juice to be a superstar quarterback in this league. Now, there's 2 sides to that. Obviously, Carolina is getting an upgrade in Baker when it comes to Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold has been able to show exactly everything that he can do. I always thought he was going to be a decent quarterback in the league. But the Jets, man, I think they shell-shocked him. PTSD from that, I think, is real for Sam. I still root for him. I like Carolina. I like their chances. Chris McCaffrey hopefully can stay healthy. You got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. I mean, and then week 1, you got Baker Mayfield against Jacoby Brissett of the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, 6 games. I mean, that right there, I'm putting a bet on that game. Carolina will win. They will cover. They will put Cleveland down for disrespecting Baker. But I ain't mad at Cleveland for what they did. I would have done it too. I would have gave Deshaun Watson all the guaranteed money, especially if I felt like Deshaun would be suspended and then everything basically good. Now, if I think he's actually at fault for some really bad like I said, I don't want to be talking about that. I'm just saying as far as the football is concerned, Deshaun Watson is that dude. So congrats to the Cleveland Brown fan base for making that switch. Then also here we got I'm on an article right now, and this shows you how I do things. Top 10 craziest stories from NFL busy 2022 offseason. Um, the Jags, Urban Meyer. That was a travesty what happened there. Poor guy. But they signed Christian Kirk to a 4-year, $72 million deal. What is going on? Because I think everyone that listens to this podcast knows I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, always will be. NFC though, Arizona Cardinals are my team. My girlfriend is from Phoenix, Arizona. That's my team. That's how I came to that. So I've watched Christian Kirk the last couple of years, and always thought that he had a very high ceiling, but he's so volatile. He might get you 20, 30 points in a week, and then he might not get you 20, 30 points for the next 5 weeks combined. That's the kind of dude he is. With Trevor Lawrence, I know they need to get as many weapons around him as possible. I just don't think Christian Kirk was the guy to go after and pay like that. I think everyone thinks that. But anyhow, next up, Calvin Ridley. This one stings a lot. I feel very bad for Calvin Ridley. He put in a $1,500 parlay, and while he was not playing, I think he was injured, correct? And yeah, out for a year. NFL come down hard on him. He got a year. Deshaun Watson got 6 games for whatever happened there. So, I don't know if we ever found out. Did he win the parlay at least? Like that would be big. Like at least get that return. Kyler Murray, brand new deal. Kyler Murray got that $160 million guaranteed. I think 230 million was the all around number. And then everybody's talking about obviously the 4 hours a week of film study. And I'm gonna tell you right now, as a procrastinator, obviously I'm not an NFL level quarterback, never was. I went to college though, played a little quarterback, and it was, I don't know if it's just man to man differently, but I could never watch film. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. But maybe that's why I never made it to the NFL. That's probably the only reason. But just saying, I can kind of relate to Kyler, especially when, and I've heard this quote from the past where he said that he doesn't need to study and watch film as much as the regular guy because he feels like he sees it all when he's on the field and makes plays from that. I can respect that in a sense. Not saying he's right, but I mean, that's how I kind of was like, oh, I'll just make it happen on the field. I think that was just me being stupid. I don't think it was actually I had all this amazing playmaking ability, but that's where he said that in the past, and so like it makes sense. But at the end of the day, I think you even see it with Patrick Mahomes, and he's even mentioned it. I think the big storyline going into last season was Mahomes is just now starting to learn how to read defenses, and I know Kyler's got to be at that same level. And I mean, you look at some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Peyton Manning was a film junkie, but then Brett Favre, reports came out that he never hardly would watch film later in his career, and I think that's an experience factor he has. But if I'm Kyler Murray, you just got paid. You're one of the most ridiculed players in the NFL. If you want to keep being that, then by all means do your thing. But man, just watch a little bit of film. Just watch a little bit of film. It's only gonna pay off. Don't gotta watch film week 1 against the Chiefs, though. We don't have to do that. So Kyler got his deal. Colts, the Indianapolis Colts. They have signed Matt Ryan. He will be replacing Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz off the Washington football team. I think it's an upgrade for both teams. I want to pull up his stats. Carson Wentz last year wasn't that bad in a statistical standpoint, but I think by the end of the season, they had seen everything they needed to. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs. They should have made the playoffs. And this year, going into this year, I mean, Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and who was that coach? Bill. anyways, their old coach, they blew that fucking franchise up. Davis Mills, I like him. I think he's the best of the rookie quarterbacks last year. We're gonna find out this year. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is that division's up for grabs. Tennessee's been the kind of that team for the last couple seasons with Indianapolis on their heels. But they lose AJ Brown. Traylon Burks might be a good replacement. We'll see. I think Tennessee's still going to be a good football team, but I don't see them as number one. I think this trade for Matt Ryan catapults them to the presumptive number one favorite. Absolutely. I think the Colts should be a very good football team. Solid, and that's all also going to depend on the quarterback play. I think Carson Wentz couldn't be depended to do a whole lot. They tried to take the ball out of his hands a lot, especially late in the year, and force feed Jonathan Taylor. And I have the number one fantasy football pick in one of my main leagues. So if they want to keep force feeding Jonathan Taylor, I'm good with it. I like that because I'll be taking him. But I really like this trade for real. I think Matt Ryan has a lot to still give. I think he's got a bitter taste in his mouth from that 28-3 loss, or they were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Tom Brady ruined that for him. I'm not saying the Colts are going to be a Super Bowl contender. I'm just saying that I think he's still got motivation to win, and I think he's on a team now. For the last 3-4 years, I don't think Atlanta was even considered to do anything. So I do like that trade. In Washington aspect, I just kind of dogged on Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz threw 3,500 yards, 27 tutties, 7 picks last season for the Colts. When you look at the Commanders, the football team, would you rather have Taylor Heineke or those stats you just heard? Now, if I say Carson Wentz or Taylor Heineke, some people might be like, hey, let's fuck it. We've seen Carson Wentz. Let's see what Heineke can do for a whole 16. I don't even know if they've signed anyone else, but I'm saying this. I think Carson Wentz can help them compete in that division. If the defense stands up like was expected last year, I think the Commanders can win the division. It's going to be a very interesting one, though. Very excited to see what Matt Ryan can do in Indianapolis. Then we got Aaron Rodgers. 150 mil, guarantee that. I love Aaron Rodgers. Always was my favorite quarterback growing up. Once he bursted on the scene, that is. I remember watching his draft when he slipped all the way down to like 26 or whatever. And ever from then, I always I watched his tape, and I was a quarterback in, Pee Wee or something at that time. But I always loved quarterback. That's what I wanted to do. Aaron Rodgers, I've always thought, throws the football. If we're talking throwing the football, making it look professional, there ain't nobody doing it better than Aaron Rodgers. That's point blank, period. Now, obviously, Patrick Mahomes has came in. I'm a Chiefs boy. Patrick Mahomes I think Aaron Rodgers is 1A and Patrick Mahomes is 1B. I'd put some days Mahomes does things Rodgers can't do. Rodgers does things nobody can do. You know what I mean? He hasn't had the greatest success in playoffs and all that, but I'll defend Aaron Rodgers till the day I die. That dude is OG. But he ain't got Devontae Adams anymore. They brought in Christian Watson. I think that's his name. The receiver from North Dakota State. Yeah. But losing Devontae is going to be very interesting. I fully expect Aaron Rodgers to come out and ball out. He might not be MVP caliber. He might not be leading the league in all the passing yards, passing touchdowns, all that. I still expect them interceptions to be next to 0, damn near. Quarterback rating through the roof. I'm really interested to see how Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon get used. Allen Lazard, I expect him to have a bigger year. Maybe the rookie too. I think they still got Randall Cobb. But I really expect Aaron Jones to catch a lot of balls. If you're PPR fantasy, lock in with that dude, Aaron Jones. I'm telling you, I would reach for him maybe sometimes. I would take an Aaron Jones. We're doing a fantasy mock draft and talking fantasy football later in the month, but I haven't really done any mocks, but I'm pretty sure guys like, here's one. This might be a wild take. Austin Eckler. I've seen that he's going in the like top 4 and 5, sometimes going number 2 in some fantasy drafts. He has had injury problems in the last couple of years, hamstrings, whatnot. I would feel more comfortable taking Aaron Jones. I'm not trying to say take Aaron Jones 4 and 5. I'd rather be sitting in a position later in the draft, 9, 10, 11, take Aaron Jones than be at 3 or 4 and take Austin Eckler, if that makes sense. I think Aaron Jones has a big year. I think A.J. Dillon gets the ball quite a bit. And a play that I'm going to try and take into this fantasy leagues, and I know I got people in my fantasy league listening to this, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon stack. I think it would be real nice. But on the other side of that, Devontae Adams leaving, he's going to reunite with his college quarterback, Derek Carr. Derek Carr, last couple of years, has been like, it's like he's taken upon himself and his teammates this campaign to like, I'm underrated. I'm one of the best. Okay. I definitely think Derek Carr is underrated. Definitely not a top 10 quarterback. Definitely not a top 7 quarterback. He's absolutely not in the top 7. Probably not in the top 10 either. I just don't have the list in front of me. We'll do that by the end of August too. Don't you worry. But I'm talking right now to have Devontae Adams, one of the best, put him out there on an island, do his thing. He'll be double coverages, all that. Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, working the slot, getting open, moving the chains. Darren Waller, I think the second best tight end in the NFL behind Travis Kelce. I know Mark Andrews and Kittle are there too, but I mean, if I have one game, give me Kelce, then give me Waller, absolutely straight up. So they got the weapons: Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake. Defense got Chandler Jones to go along with who's the fucking redhead? I about said Mason Rudolph. Man, I gotta get my shit together, man. Max Crosby. What the fuck am I doing? All right, yeah. Anyways. So Raiders are gonna be really good. And like I said, next podcast, Monday, we're going to be breaking down the AFC West and NFC West. That's where I'll talk about every single team in depth more and give a kind of what I think they'll go record-wise. Yeah, all that. So look for that AFC West, NFC West next Monday, like I've already mentioned beginning of the podcast. Then, should have brought this up first. Tyreek Hill. Bye-bye, Tyreek. Oh, my gosh, bro. One of the wildest stories I've ever heard. When all those news came out, Tyreek might be getting traded. I was like, wait, the thought had never even came in my I can't even talk. I've never thought of that. I thought Tyreek Hill would retire a Chief, or at least I hoped it. I never wanted to think about a day without Tyreek Hill. I've always thought Tyreek Hill is one of the most underrated players in the entire league myself also. But he does get that recognition, but it's only as a fast guy. I think Tyreek Hill is a game changer. He's someone that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. You know where he's at all times. But do we pay him $30 million? Or do we bring in guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, McCole Hardman, Sky Moore? Did I say Marquez Valdez-Scantling? I don't know if I did. But essentially, I mean, you are able to replace him with all these different guys. We got other players as well with that $30 million. But I just really think that, and you've seen it last year, teams were starting to figure out what the Chiefs were doing. Mahomes would still make incredible plays time and time again, but he had the most turnovers of his entire career. I think he threw 13 interceptions. I think it's time to get away from that RPO. The run pass option, it's great. You can still use it, but as our identity, and you could say I don't know what I'm talking about, may not have been their full on identity, but I mean, when it came to Tyreek, I mean, look at the play in the AFC Championship game against the Bengals. That was an RPO. And I just think when you look at Mahomes' rookie or his first year starting, second year in the league, and he just was throwing the ball, dotting it here, there, and everywhere, I think we're going to see that more. I think we're going to get back to that. I mean, you have 5 or 6 receivers now. Yeah, none of them are Tyreek Hill, I mean, you still got Travis Kelce, who is one. I mean, he's leading the league in receiving yards by week 14. Then, yeah, the end of the season, he's not because he sat out 2 games because they didn't need him. You know what I mean? But, I mean, you got so much weapons. Running back is going to be the real concerning one. But we'll get into that next podcast. We'll talk more about the AFC West as a whole and the Chiefs. But losing Tyreek Hill, I don't think is that bad of a deal. When I first heard it, I was depressed, and then I started trying to make up things in my mind, like, "Oh yeah, no, we'll be fine. This is okay. No, we'll be all right." But finally, I made, I was able to make that, actually make sense. At first, I think I was just trying to make it make sense, trying to feel better about the situation, but and then obviously Tyreek mentioning that Tua is the most accurate quarterback he's ever played with. That was very, very interesting as well. Um, you know, he's like me. He's just trying to promote podcasts, man. So yeah. Then the Bucks, Bruce Arians retired. We just found out Julio Jones is coming to the team. Godwin will be hurt for a couple games though. But big, big, big. The Brady retiring deal. Wasn't that something? It seems so long ago. I don't even want to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. But I mean, I never, especially okay. Tom Brady is going to retire on top or try to. If he loses in the Super Bowl this year, I think he might go ahead and go out on top that way too. I don't want to give out too many spoilers for my previews. But I think Buccaneers are going to be a great team. I didn't expect Brady to retire in that way. Like Schefter announced it. Not even fucking Brady, just on a regular ass day, no special way or anything. I knew Brady wasn't staying retired like that. And now we've came out, the Dolphins had to give up a draft pick for tampering or something. They were trying to get Brady to come in and be a owner, coach, player, all that shit. I'm not going to be happy fully as an NFL fan until Tom Brady just gets the fuck away from us. Please just leave. Just go. I seen that. I seen an interview of him at training camp the other day, and he looked like he put on another 5 years from the last season. So just give it up. But yeah, I don't see Brady just retiring after losing in the second round of the playoffs and at home, and then just Adam Schefter gets to call his career. Bullshit. That ain't going out like that. That ain't how it works. So yeah, and then I'd say the last thing I kind of want to touch on this podcast, because when we break down each and every division, we'll be able to talk about each team and all those smaller acquisitions and whatnot. But fucking Mr. Unlimited going to the freaking Broncos. That one threw me for a loop. Of course, everybody wants to come and have fun in the AFC West. My God, dude. I swear there's an NFL conspiracy going on. They don't want fucking Mahomes to catch Brady. So they're stacking all the fucking cards against him. They probably were giving out game tape or inside fucking scoops last year, and that's why he struggled so bad. No, but I think Russell Wilson to the Broncos makes a lot of sense. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, Albert O from Mizzou. I mean, they got the weapons for him. I mean, you've seen in the past Russell Wilson make guys we've never heard of look great. And yeah, I'm telling you, man, I wish these guys were going to different teams. I wish all these guys, like the fucking Chargers stacked up, Raiders stacked up, Broncos stacked up. AFC West is incredible, guys. Very excited to see what Russell Wilson does. The Seahawks on the other side of that, rocking with Geno Smith or Drew Lock. Drew Lock's been getting a lot of hate from a lot of places, but I just want to say that I call Drew Lock being a flop coming out of Mizzou quarterback. I never seen anything special. Okay, yeah, you can. If you throw the ball 50, 60 times a game, you better have a game where you throw 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, or some shit. I just don't see how anyone could have watched his college career and then be like, yeah, he's gonna be a great NFL quarterback, especially a 16th pick overall. I was so thrown off by that. But it looks like Geno Smith might actually get the start there. But gonna be interesting to see what happens in San Francisco. Jimmy G. I mean, they've already came out and said that Trey Lance is their guy. I don't see anything out of Trey Lance so far. They try to kind of hide him, and that's kind of a red flag to me. But see what happens with Jimmy G. If they release him, I think the Seahawks should go get him. I think Jimmy G would be great to have, at least when you got Drew Lock and Geno, So a lot of stuff. But yeah, is there anything else I need to touch base on? I'm trying to think. I mean, there's been so much craziness going on in the off season. I should have been taking notes all off season long. Yeah, I mean, there's been coaches changes. I'm excited for Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. I hope Jacksonville can be really good. I would like that. They're due, you know what I mean? Take us back to them Blake Bortles, Leonard Fournette, Jalen Ramsey years, you know what I mean? But no, yeah, so I think that's going to cut. I think that's where we're going to end the pod. Like I said, Monday, AFC, NFC West preview with Dalton Martin, the lone Rams fan in the world. It should be a lot of fun. Every Monday, Thursday, you can expect to hear this pod, see this pod, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, about said Streamify. And I'm working on the production levels. We're going to have it really looking good. It's just a work in progress. A lot of moving parts here. I'm glad that y'all are rocking with me because I'm rocking with y'all. And yeah, that's how we going to do it. Much love, everyone. I appreciate listening to the podcast. Please subscribe. Please like it. Share it to your friends. Be like, yo, you like gambling on football? Listen to this dude. Oh, you like playing fantasy football? Listen to this dude. Oh, you have a hard question with you don't know who to start in fantasy? Hit me up. Please hit me up. But I do want to eventually add in a way for people to interact with the podcast and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to work on it. We're going to get it popping. A lot of stuff coming. Tune in Monday. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, AFC, NFC West preview. This was the off-season synopsis from yours truly, Connor Moriarty. It's dedication period. Much love. Take care, y'all.